did not make it. The next 8 teams that are going to be following them are to your left-hand side of your screen right there.
I forgot who was in the group. I just know it's the hardest group. I think there's 2 OG and...
It's Gen G, both of them.
Yeah, both OG and G.
And then there's
I think
Navi's in there.
And they like...
Genesis is in there. Ifty is in there as well. NBC. Oh yeah.
VC's nuts.
Yeah, I think VC is pretty good also.
We won't have such a hard time in the group because of the teams that are in the group. They're good teams, but they don't play the same play style as us. So I think we won't be running into them too much.
We have really good teams, and we also have like the 2 weakest teams in my opinion, so that helps as well.
Who are the 2 weakest?
I'm not gonna say.
Who are the strongest?
4 AM and FaZe and a Freak of Freaks, so that's gonna be difficult.
We're just happy that there's not teams like hard contesting it. Obviously, we're happy with our group, so.
still 8th place though. If CC, Atletico, and
No,
Red
but
die.
Atletico, if Atletico kills CC, they already make it.
Look at how all the other teams are playing and prepare even better for tomorrow and Sunday. It's going to be extremely good for these guys to kind of have that advantage.
If I'm everybody else, I'm terrified, though. This roster on this Group C is full of teams that thrive on last day mechanics, last day play, and I'm worried if I'm an A or B.
What we saw from Ghost during the group stage was more than we expected from them.
Yeah.
I hope they can keep it up here in the summers as well, because they're definitely going to need that being in this group here.
Gotta agree. 5th place for them throughout Group A. Saw them rocketing through, not having to play on the eliminations. But here is Group A and B. This is the festivities we have outlined for you for today. These 16 teams will be making their way to the next 6 games. And overall, when you look at the clash of A and B, does anything jump out to you instantaneously?
Well, what jumps out for me is that we have 4 teams from NPL.
Yes.
We have 3 teams from PKL, 3 teams from PCL. Now, logically, you would kind of not be clashing together because you know each other from the league itself. You drop in different spots, you play different spots. Again, though, NPL on NPL action.
That's what you think. But yeah, NPL seems to love killing nobody in the world more than NPL. We saw that constantly in the last rounds. So I'm a little worried about this group because these guys need to have a strong start. Another one to keep an eye on is Vendetta. Their first game is going to determine their pace of their entire day.
I feel like it's not just in-game, it's also out of game for NPL. Whenever I listen to the interviews, they're like, yeah, we're going to get the other NPL teams. I'm like, what are you doing? Stop, no! But anyway, let's focus on some of our teams a little bit closer. And TSM is definitely one that shone through from the first week Avenger. We saw them topping their group with 63 points.
Yeah, what amazing start for them. I'm happy to see them up there. To be fair, and to be honest, I did not expect them to be doing this well already. I talked a bit with Gustav in Danish, obviously, because he's Dane, and he told me they are at the highest point of team chemistry, positivity, and also obviously with the latest addition from Phase 3 for Dits, they're doing extremely well.
They managed to get 63 points in 6 games. That's a lot. On top of that, Iroh, top fragger off the group stage. That's huge. He's the newcomer to that team itself. And of course, joined by Dids, the new coach there.
I mean, I think Iroh sums up the nature of that team. They're working hard. He told me he's lost 30 kilos since he joined the BEL, and it's because he saw it as an ability to improve his performance. He's wanted the stamina and the ability to play better, and so that's how committed they are. It's not just about getting better in game, but outside of it too.
Now that you mention that, it's very noticeable. Well played to him. Damn, I should get some tips from Iroh. Let's talk about Tempo Storm there here on the other side of things. They got themselves 3rd place in Group A. I want to start with you, Toffees, because you are so well knowledgeable about these NPL teams. And of course, this is the house that Tempo Storm built.
It is. And honestly, the best part about Tempo is while we talk about teams that need to have a big start, they don't necessarily. They do well when it comes down to figuring out what's wrong and how to fix it. That said, this first day is going to be tough for them. Having a lot of teams that think similarly, having to deal with that infantry sort of rivalry yet again could start them slow, and I don't think they have the same leniency they did in the last grouping.
I'm a little bit worried because they had a slow start in the group stage, and we all know that they can be a little bit slow in the start, but they know how to catch up. But I want to see them have a good start from the start and just keep on steamrolling with that itself.
How about yourself, Avenger?
I want to give OG and NSA some time, though.
Do it.
So you guys talked about tempo, but OG and NSA surprised me. They did extremely well. I'm excited to see if they can continue that. They beat their sister team Force, which, in my opinion, was the stronger team, but they showed us different here, Ace. So I'm excited to see if they're able to continue that.
I actually want to go even further than that. They didn't only surprise me just a little bit, they surprised me extremely. So when I look at their year as a whole through TKL, nothing's really shone for me for OG and Interface, apart from when they qualified, and yet they managed to blast that first day.
I mean, the reality is, after the first 2 weeks, they were in 16th place in PKL.
Yeah.
And they ended up with 10 more points than their nearest brother, Force, who everybody says is #1. Now, I believe that they are. I think they just had a bit of a slow start. But Force, look for them to really explode this week.
Absolutely. Kale's got a great name. A very, very good name indeed. OG and Enters Force here. What do you think about this roster overall? For a lot of people, they consider to be one of the more powerful teams in Korea.
I mean, they're supposed to be one of the best, and there's a reason why they are here, right? We saw Seong Yang getting himself 11 kills in those 6 games. If he can keep that up together with Indigo as well, that's going to be huge for them.
Why don't we just keep going on the Korean bandwagon here? We got Gen G popping up as well. For me, the start of the year for them wasn't spectacular, but then they grabbed Pio, they grabbed him from another team, and then that, for me, Avenger, is when they really start to gather momentum.
Obviously, you cannot talk about Pio because he did amazing at PNC, but for me, these guys are looking to put another team logo inside the game again here once we come back for PGZ.
I mean, I think they have a big upside, especially if they get a good start. I think after PNC, it felt like their play fell off a little bit. I don't know if maybe they took some time or whatever it was. But I mean, this is a team that we would once joked about as sort of the phase of the East. And I think that they are on their way back to being that.
And to that point, though, where I'm kind of highlighting Pio, if it wasn't for Loki in that first weekend, there was the potential they could have gone down to eliminations.
Definitely, but at the same time, don't forget about Esther. Being a little bit of the support player, we don't see too much from him, but at the same time, the things he pull off from behind the scenes there, oh my god, it's just huge plays all the time, and literally just serving Pio and Loki all those kills.
For me, for them to succeed here, they need to play more together. I see a lot of flanks, I see a lot of kind of off angles, where one of the players that are able to make clutches, just he dies often, or like they end up being 2 or 3 players too often, rather than being 4 towards the end.
And our final team here, as we take a look at a few more with a magnified view, it's going to be VC Gaming. And this team, well, when we look at how they were able to eventually come here to PGC, they were the first team to qualify for PGC this year. It was a little of a rough time in the groups, but then in eliminations, they absolutely smashed it.
I mean, again, I'll jump off and say I was hard on them, but they just grew incredibly. I mean, you look at their first day of play, it was pretty good, but they ended up going the elimination route. Then they got 63 points on elimination day in terms of play. That's more points than the top teams from the previous 2 days earned themselves. So their 1 point total is still the best of all the teams out there. Their upside is continuously growing.
They need to keep that momentum up, though. They can't play like they did in the group stage. Sure, it wasn't too bad. They still had 30 points in group stage, which is 5 points per game.
It was admirable.
But it's okay, but it's not good enough. Well, I mean, we're going to have 16 teams moving on, so it might be good enough, actually.
Yeah, maybe.
As you said, though, there is a reason they're in the elimination group. So, yes, they start off with a win, which basically snowballed them to do whatever they wanted because they were so far ahead already. But I want to see that continue. I want to see that aggression being played as well. Because if they play like they did in the first day, they will also be kind of looking at maybe potentially going out here in the semifinals.
One big thing is that a lot of people would look down on teams going down to elimination stage, maybe, because they were down there. But that doesn't really matter. They had one bad day, maybe, and they got down there. Now they have 2 days. They have 6 games per day to actually make it up for.
I mean, I think that going to elimination day was good for some of these teams. Rumbler said they were happy that they went. I think VC clearly showed that they grew in that stage. GEX did the same thing. So I think for some of these teams, that elimination day was a big eye-opener for them as well as the teams watching, and I'm hoping they carry that momentum.
Gives them good grounding. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We're going to go to a short break here at PGC before we get into all the festivities, but when we return, we're going to have Erangel on the way, and all of our 16 teams today will vie to try and gain as many points as possible as they try to push themselves on to Oakland. We'll see you in a sec. a world champion here at the PGC.
The best teams from everywhere here to prove who's a top dog. And honestly, I'm hyped
to see the group stage unfolding here. It's going to be amazing.
This is it. This is the biggest tournament.
24 of our teams, 24 of the best in the world.
I'm excited, extremely excited to get this started, guys.
Not only just the group stage for now. Actually, what matters is that we qualified. We don't know yet, because we still have one group to play and wait for them.
Managed to get one, but the follow-up is coming up. Uba comes up big.
After that, probably watch some replays, decide where to drop and stuff.
Going down in 4th place. 12 kills already for Africa Freaks.
또 그 8등 안에 들 준비만 그것만 일단 오히려 하고 있어요. 오늘 같은 경우는 일단 무난하게 하려고 왔고 그 무난하게 잘 8등 안에 잘 들어서 통과를 잘한 것 같아요. 그냥 오늘 딱 짰던 전략대로 잘한 것 같아요.
Посмотрим все карты, которые мы сыграли сегодня, посмотрим, кто выйдет завтра, и будем готовиться под все команды, которые пришли.
I think we played good overall. We had a kind of a rough start. We were sitting at like 9th, just right on the cusp. We cleared our edge, and we pretty much just played as a team up into the end. I think we finished with something like 15 kills. Feels good, man.
I think we played really consistently. We definitely fell off towards the end on Miramar, which is a bit strange because it's our best map. But we have to be really happy with qualifying. I think a lot of people didn't expect us to even come close.
우선 오늘은 저희가 연습한 거보다 좀 더 잘 나왔고.
That second gonna come through. Vehicles are just crashing down around. Kennewatt wanted to come in and go for the save, but instead Joy just tears him apart.
저희 팀원들이 다 잘해줘서 그 부족한 부분을 이겨낼 수 있었던 것 같아요.
Chắc nghĩ là do bọn em một phần là may mắn với là một phần là không biết, nhưng mà chắc đơn giản là may mắn hơn.
Guess who's been the one that's got them even towards this scenario of a
进半决赛感觉还是挺轻松的，然后还是要为后面的决赛做准备。
We'll study these teams a bit more. We've studied them already. Yeah, we'll probably look at going back to our league spots that we're more familiar with, maybe.
Trying to cook it as much as he can, and look, Gustav just runs into it. That's the way you handle a grenade.
But yeah, we'll just continue our normal preparation, just playing the game and analyzing other teams.
This is the second chance that the teams are going to get here, and this will be the last chance if they don't make it. So they got to step up right now.
Today feels energetic compared to the first day. Well, because the first day is kind of getting not used to the time here. So I feel really good today.
Acho que a gente jogou bem até certo ponto, mas a gente tem bem mais potencial que isso. Dá para jogar bem melhor. Melhorar tudo no geral, jogar melhor, rotar melhor e ter mais confianza.
主要我觉得是我们心态上没有放开吧，太轻松了。
No cambiamos mucho el estilo de juego, la verdad que jugamos bastante a lo que veníamos jugando desde antes, pero lo que sí es que cometimos menos errores y fue eso lo que nos hizo superar el resultado de ayer.
我觉得打得并不是很好。 因为就是后面的3场全部都没有打好，在这段时间好好练习。我会尽量把这次的比赛打出好成绩，这样的。
戦えないっていうことが一番嫌だなと思ったし、ずっと、こういう一番大きな大会で、結構かっこよく戦いに行けたらいいなと思ってたんで、すごいそこら辺に関してはうまくいってとても満足しています。
But now Crazy Sam comes over the top and trades it back.
策略的话，我感觉个人感觉就是心态方面的问题吧。第一天的话，可能就打得太保守了，太怂了。然后第二天的话，可能就放开打了，就当训练赛打，就打这样。
其实还好，挺轻松的吧，因为第一天也有点分，压力没有那么大。CM Pubg No.1。
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for the PUBG Global Championship semifinals, day 1 between Group A and Group B. I am Porosaurus. Joining me for these first 2 games will be Mr. Xenox. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm excited.
How can you not be? I mean, we've gone through
first weekend, 3 full days of intense, highly dramatic games. We've lost some fantastic, phenomenal teams, but now we're left with just 3 groups left. And after this, we're going to know who's going to the grand finals.
Yeah, 32 down to 24 teams. And then, as you said, after this weekend, we're going to lose another 8 along the way. And it's hard to believe that we're going to lose 8 more teams. These teams are so good. These groups are stacked.
Absolutely.
And yet 8 more will still have to go home after this weekend. It's staggering to me.
It really is. And, you know, we've seen such dominant teams go home last week. There have been so many surprises, so many shocks. We're also seeing teams that we didn't expect to be here that have really turned things on and are really rising to the challenge of the spotlight of the Global Championship. And, you know, I can't wait to see who's going to be the one to come out of this weekend. What new superstars are we going to see made?
Yeah, exactly right. But in saying that, you know, you said that we've got maybe some teams we might not have expected to be here. I think it's more the case of the teams that aren't here we were expecting to be here. At the end of the day, all 32 teams that started at PGC were capable of at least making it to the semifinals. I truly believed that. So for me, there's no real surprise in a sense, but we weren't expecting some teams to go home, the likes of Team Liquid, G2, etc. As we're heading into match 1 of day 1, it's Group A and of course Group B for today, Poro. And for Group B, one thing I want to point out, they're going to be playing today, they're going to be playing tomorrow, and then on Sunday, they're just going to have to sit there and watch.
Oh, that's got to be the worst feeling, right? You know that there's nothing else that you can do. Everything that leads up to that day, you know, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine having to sit there with your destiny not even in your own hands. But we still have 12 games before we get to that point, so they have a lot of time to put their mark down. As we see the plane crossing across the very southern part of the island here.
Very low plane path.
Yeah, it's going to be making for some interesting drops, I'd imagine.
I like that they've added the nationality flags as well to these teams.
Cool.
Just as EU lost half their teams, now they get the little European flag. Although Aussies lost half our team as well.
Well, you know, it is what it is. It was a very rough group stage. It was a very rough group stage. But lest we worry too much about those who are not with us, let's worry about those who are.
Yeah, exactly right.
One of those being Team Solo Mid.
Now,
as we have a nice little circle right dead in the center here.
Yeah, and that's probably going to give us a comfortable first game, I think, for these teams and these players. Now, 12 games, Poro, it's slightly different for a lot of the teams in these groups that didn't have to play the elimination stage. Now, I'm expecting
this is what we were looking
Genesis and Entus Force to continue their little treaty here, which is what we've been seeing from them last weekend as well, splitting Pachinki quite fairly. Look, of course, they'll be careful. They'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but you know, there was a little bit of meat in that sandwich there last week. The meat is no longer there, as we are left with our 2 pieces of bread and no liquid meat in the middle here. As it looks like, it does look like though that they are managing to split this up pretty.
Look, Entus Force are going to take the north side like they did last week, and Genesis will take the south side like they did last week. I'm not expecting these 2 teams to start hunting each other down. They'll split Pachinki. Maybe in scrims they've been fighting it out, but not on these live games when it matters. You've only got 12 games. Every point matters. We saw that last weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, both teams doing a really good job of, Genesis has now figured out how they want to play Pachinki when there is another team in there. We've known for months now, going back all the way to Face It, that they refuse to give up this spot. This is their drop spot.
Yep.
This is where they feel comfortable rotating from. Anywhere else on the map, they just don't feel as good. So they have figured out now how to play this in such a way where they can split it up with somebody fairly, passively. And it seems to be working out wonders for him, as we see Indigo has actually made his way off into the...
And that's how comfortable they are. Not expecting Genesis to push up north in Pachinki and take a fight. They've even sent Indigo out early. They're going to get decent position because of this. So Genesis, they're going to continue to play passive in Pachinki, and so will Entus Force. And I think that's fine. It worked well for both teams last week. They didn't have to play elimination stage at all. So we'll see how it plays out again for them in their groups.
So we see Genesis, they heard the vehicles in the background. It looks like they're just going to wrap up their looting here before getting into a vehicle. Only one vehicle, though.
Yeah, you've still got to be careful, though. And
Absolutely.
I think that's where Genesis are playing this smart. They're watching the angles, making sure Entus Force aren't going to do something tricky. Since it's game 1, we say that you've only got 12 games, but if you're going to do something a little different. Maybe it might be game one where you kind of throw a curveball there and maybe try and surprise Genesis as now the shots begin from Indigo.
Oh, no.
The treaty is over now. Once you leave Pachinki, Entus Force can start taking shots.
Yeah, no reason for Entus Force not to send those shots. And a good job by Genesis to keep that Doxia in line, as it looks like the Force boys are going to hop in. And is this actually Genesis? No, they're just going to keep on rotating, just breaking line of sight here. I was curious to see if they were actually going to pull up and maybe try to do a camp here. It doesn't look like they're too concerned with it. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Entus Force, Genesis both making it through in the group stage, and Genesis leaving a little bit more to chance there, needing a very late game, last game, final clutch out.
Yep.
Whereas Force, you know, they're not lighting up the scoreboard, but if you go and you look a little bit deeper, you look at the stats, all 4 players on Force are averaging over 200 damage a game. There's only 3 other teams that are doing that, and that's 4AM, TSM, and FaZe. And
that's good company to be in.
And the dealer departed Athletico was able to do that on elimination day. But again, unfortunate. But but you know, that says a lot about this team, right? They're putting themselves in a position where they can get shots down, they can send damage over towards other squads. So you know, we only expect to see the placement start going Entus Force's way here soon.
Now over the Rumblers, looting around Mill to Barrel. They're going to move up to Lumber Mill for now, pushing into this circle. They have been the surprise packet. Although for some of us, not too surprised. We thought, you know, this sort of house money sort of phrase that keeps being thrown around, it's quite true for Rumblers. They, of course, got the reprieve coming in as the last team. And they've certainly lived up to expectations in terms of